So throughout the last number of years, I've talked to a bunch of people in the dropship space, and even lately I've been having some calls with people who are starting up a store either for the first time or maybe it's their fourth or fifth store, and I start to see. I'm going to talk about three mistakes that I see are made specifically in the dropship space that I don't see as much in the brand founder space or people who get into e-commerce for a different reason than to just make a ton of money. But if you are trying to be in e-commerce to make a ton of money, then definitely consider these three things that I'm about to say about these three mistakes that I see dropshippers in particularly making when they set up stores in 2022 and why they're not working as well as they might want them to. So, got a couple notes here. The first one is they build a lifestyle brand without knowing it. And what I mean by that is they pick a niche like clothing or jewelry or just kind of something like that you'd think would make a ton of money. But the problem is, unless you're like, and this was the old model of it, maybe in 2016, 2017, where if you were going to go into jewelry, you were better off making jewelry that had turtles on it, for instance, and then targeting people that like turtles. But I see a lot of stores today that are just like, well, it'll be dresses or lingerie or activewear or like in the fitness space or anything like that. But the thing about that is that it is so the buying market is so competitive now that to start a lifestyle company, and I'll explain what I mean by that in a second, is going to be very challenging to get people to trust it enough to buy these days when there are so many options because there are so many big brands online. Like, you're more likely to get your sweatpants from Lululemon or from Champion or from Nike than you are to find a random ad in a random store and just buy it because they're cheap. Now, especially because they're cheap, people might not buy, but that could be a whole other video. But I do see it all the time. Picking a niche that requires lifestyle marketing over more feature-based marketing. For instance, if you pick a pain product, which a lot of people in the dropship space talk about, you're gonna have a different style of advertising. Like if it's back pain or knee pain or a certain ointment that fixes something, then you can rank for a lot of those words. People are actively looking for that stuff based on the pain they have, and you don't need to do as much branding or marketing work than you do if you just have a store of kids clothes or anything that relates to lifestyle. And by lifestyle I mean you need to market like the lifestyle brands, that you are coming along at a time in the customer's life where you're going to give them some kind of transformation. And when I look at these sites, they're not competitive enough. They're not standing out enough. They're not, I can't look at them and say, this is exactly who this product is for and exactly why they will buy from this site over even Amazon, right? So that's mistake number one, is going into a niche that needs lifestyle marketing, which can be expensive as well as takes a lot of time, and you need to be really focused and understand who your customer is and what they want out of their lives in order to effectively market and have your website speak to that person in a way that builds that relationship and gets them to come back or makes you trust them enough to buy again from you and not somewhere else. So if you're looking to just go to not do any of that and just make as much money as possible, I'd recommend more of those pain niches, more the back pain stuff, or just those one-off products that are just super popping, that have a very clear value add that people can just buy. But again, trying to go for clothes, it's a little bit different of an approach. So my second thing is mistake that I see people making is they focus way too much on Facebook ads. Facebook ads as the main strategy. Now, I ran Facebook ads for about 5 years and I had worked with a lot of different clients, but it's very different now, and the expense that they are, the strategies are almost secondary because you can get all those strategies online. It's really going to come down to what you're putting in those ads. And I feel like especially when people just launch, they're like, well, we need Facebook ads. This is again particularly more in the dropship space. They're like, I need a Facebook ad strategy, or we need to do Facebook and Instagram ads. It's like, you might need to do them, but you also may not. I mean, it depends on the niche, it depends on the price point, the site, where your people are, where they appear in your funnel. Like, I'm a huge believer in Facebook and Instagram ads for warm traffic, but for cold traffic, and especially if you're on a bit of a budget, it's gonna really eat up your cash reserves. And it's not gonna be the fastest to get back until you've built up enough of that data. So when you're thinking, if you are starting a site or you're just trying to only use Facebook ads as your cold traffic, I'd highly recommend you think about where your ideal audience is outside of that, and then do more of that marketing, whether it's either organic brand ambassadors / influencers, or paid, but at least you get that reach. Maybe it's Pinterest, maybe it's YouTube, maybe it's Google, maybe it's Google Shopping in particular. Maybe you need to have blog content in order to get people on the site. So it's better to just think about it a little bit holistically and think about your short-term and long-term strategy, instead of just saying we need Facebook ads right now, because it may not work for every niche and every store, at least right away, or it's going to be very expensive. And my last point of mistakes I see dropshippers make now and in the last number of years too is they don't track enough costs. Like, they're not actively keeping tracking sheets of how much is being spent and how much is being made. There's this huge obsession I find in the e-commerce space around top line revenue. Everyone shows their phone and it's like millions of dollars, but it's not a good, accurate representation of the business. And especially if you're trying to do Facebook ads and Instagram ads as your main strategy, they're costly. And in the times when I've done this, it's like, you've got your cost per product, and then you think you're making, because you've priced it at a certain point where you're going to be making profitability. But when you factor in your ad costs and your shipping costs, and sometimes your packaging costs, and maybe you had to make some content if you're not doing it yourself, it really starts to eat at that margin. And so I would highly recommend that if you're not tracking every month, if not every day, you should be looking at what's being spent on the business and what's being made in the business, and figure out how to basically be making, how to increase that margin. One way to do it is by increasing items per checkout, or increasing average order value and things like that. But you won't know that you need to do that until you actually look at the sheet. So don't be afraid of the numbers. Go in every month. If you can, go in every day. Look at that account. See what's being spent, all the apps that you're spending, all the costs in the business. You probably don't have a warehouse, but you might be spending on some apps you're not even using. So just get to a point in your store where you know every single cost that's going in and out. That's gonna help you on your bottom line more than you could imagine. So just wanted to make this quick one. 3 mistakes I see dropshippers making, and hope you have a great day. See you in another video.